Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev, Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev. Jai Krishna Is Transcendental, Jai Vishnu Patram, Sadarajacharya, Spiritual Makusita, Susana Maraka, Kijay, Anatapuri Vaishnav Vrinda Kijay, Navacharya Shridas Thakur Kijay, Hemsito, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasa, Lord, Antavinda Kijay, Shri Shridhar Krishna Gopinath, Shyam Kund Radha Kund, Giriraj Govardhan Kijay, Vrindavan Dham Kijay, Navadvip Dham Kijay, Mathura Dham Kijay, Dwarka Dham Kijay, Jagannath Puri Dham Kijay, Ganga Maiya Murna Maiya Kijay, Tulasi Devi Bhakti Devi Kijay, Samet Bhakti Devi Kijay. All glories to Assembled Devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Assembled Devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Assembled Devotees, Hare Krishna. Shri Guru and Gauranga and all pure. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasa, Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Nityananda, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pachari, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashakti Devi. Hare Krishna. So my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for making out your time for this course on Bhagavad Gita. And I could see new devotees, new faces. So let's welcome all the new members who came for the first time by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you for joining. So, we are discussing Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. And this last section of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, especially the discussion about mind and senses. The question was raised by Arjuna, Sthita Pragyasya ka bhasha. What are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? And how does he sit? And how does he walk? So these are the questions we are discussing last few sessions. So the literal meaning is something else, but if you see the meaning behind it, when it is ka bhasha means here it is about symptoms of a person who is fixed in transcendental consciousness. What are the symptoms? What are the characteristics of such a person? And in answer to this question, now Krishna is giving so many qualities he is talking about. A person who is fixed in transcendence, how does he behave? How does he think? Right? Responding to the situations. how such person restrain his senses from the sense objects. So these are the questions, and Krishna is giving answer to all those questions. So in verse number 55, he said that what is general symptom? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Parth, when a man gives up all varieties of desires for sense gratification which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So this is the general characteristics of a person who is fixed in consciousness, or one who is at transcendental platform. His mind is pure, purified in Krishna consciousness, and he is always situated in self. Yes, he is always happy within self. Yes, he is, and what else? One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of a steady mind. So these are the qualities. The person is not disturbed in any situation. Yes, amidst the threefold miseries. So we have already discussed these things. Any kind of situation is there, the person is fixed in his consciousness, fixed in his purpose, in his purpose to achieve spiritual salvation, or attaining the spiritual goal of life, Krishna Prema, love of God, right? He is always fixed in that consciousness. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is formally fixed in perfect knowledge. So again and again the same. Yes. So how he is responding to the situation. So this is what the answer to that question. How he is responding to the good and bad situations. So he is not disturbed. He is not neither praising it nor despising it. Like sometimes we see good situations in life, then we become so happy. We appreciate that. When some bad time is there, so in that time we start criticizing the situation, right? But a person who is fixed in consciousness, one who is on transcendental platform, he will not react to the situation, but he will take both the situations, either good or bad, as mercy of Krishna. This is high consciousness, high level of consciousness. Even in bad situation, that is also mercy of Krishna. And good situation, okay, thank you so much Krishna, by your mercy, everything is going so nice. But if bad situation is there, Krishna has a better plan. Krishna is our best friend. He always does good for us. So whatever his plan, let's accept it. So this is the consciousness of a person who is on transcendental platform. And one example was given, how restraining the senses. This was the third question. A person who is in Krishna consciousness on transcendental platform, how does he restrain his senses from the sense object? So the example is given of a tortoise. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So the example given of tortoise means restraining the senses or utilizing the senses. Whenever it is required, utilize it. If it is not required, just just keep it. Do not misuse the senses. That is what we got over here. So senses and sense objects, we know what is sense objects. So senses, they are always looking after sense objects. That is the nature of the senses, right? So there are 5 senses and 1 subtle sense, that is mind. So there are 6 senses overall. And the activity of sense is to be attracted towards sense objects. And in this material world, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mame Mansho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Manah Shashtani Indriyani, Prakriti Asthani Karshati. So Jiva, who is the eternal, fragmental part and parcel of Krishna, we all are living entities, Jiva, right? And Jiva is eternal part and parcel of Krishna. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Right? And we have a loving relationship with Krishna. In a spiritual kingdom, in a spiritual world, we reciprocate with Krishna's desire. We serve Krishna, we please Krishna. That is the original constitutional position of a living entity, serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna. But when Jiva forgets about this relationship, come to this material world, and in this material world, Krishna is saying, the Jiva is struggling hard. The living entity is struggling in this material world. With mind and senses struggling. This world is Dukhalayam Shashvatam. Why Jiva is struggling here with the help of mind and senses? Jiva, away from Krishna, trying to be happy, trying to control the material nature, lord it over material nature. Prabhupada is writing everywhere. Jiva, away from Krishna, forgetful of his relationship with Krishna, trying to become master, trying to control the material nature, or trying to become enjoyer. And because of this controlling, enjoying mentality, Jiva is suffering in this material world, because this material world or this Maya Shakti is very, very powerful. Right? Jiva is part and parcel of Krishna. Qualitatively, if you see, like Krishna is Satchit Ananda, similarly, the living entity, soul is also same. Jiva, soul is also Satchit Ananda. But again, because Jiva is just a small particle of Krishna's energy, right? The living entity. But when it comes in contact with material energy, it is covered by the three modes of material nature. It is covered by the influence of material nature. This is the difference between Jiva and Krishna. When Krishna comes in material world, he is not covered with material modes of the nature of the material modes, the three modes of material nature. And that's why he is Krishna. That's why he is Supreme God. Krishna is the controller of the material nature. Everything, whatever is happening in this material world, or the Maya Shakti, external energy of Krishna. So Maya is working under direction of Krishna. Maya Dhakshana Prakriti Suite Sacharacharam. Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. That is Maya Shakti, this material nature is working under my direction. So Krishna is never under the clutches of Maya. But Jiva, because insignificant soul, when it comes to material world, it is controlled by Maya. Controlled by Maya. But unfortunately, or because of illusion, because of ignorance, Jiva thinks like that I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am the doer. And when Jiva thinks like this, if Jiva is only hankering after enjoyment or trying to control the material nature, in that case, always there is suffering. I mean, though the controlling mentality coming from Krishna only. Krishna is the supreme controller. And being a part and parcel of Krishna, we also have that mentality, controlling over material nature. But we have to understand, we are insignificant. And Jiva can only be happy when it's in original nature, that is subordinate to Krishna. When Jiva is serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna, or acting in reciprocation with Krishna, then only living entity can be happy and peaceful. Otherwise, there is no other situation to become happy. So here, why it is mentioned that we need to control the mind and senses? Because what is the duty? What is the job of mind and senses? Mind is always thinking, feeling and willing. Desire. Desire is the activity of mind. Desiring. Either we can desire to please Krishna or we can desire to serve Maya. Right? We have only two options. Either we can serve Krishna or we can serve Maya. What is Maya? Maya means self-centered, egoistic nature or egoistic desire to satisfy the self, to satisfy our senses, right? Bodily concept of life. So if we simply try to enjoy separate from Krishna, this is called Maya Shakti. So all the living entities here in this material world, they are trying to enjoy separate from Krishna. And because of this enjoying mentality, Jiva is struggling in this material world. So this is what we have to understand, the nature of the material world. This material world, as explained by Krishna, is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Everything is temporary and it's a place of suffering. But because of this conditioning, because of ignorance, Jiva is trying hard to become happy. Right? So, and this is not only in this lifetime, but this is happening from time immemorial. We don't know how many lifetimes, from life after life, we have been in this material world and trying to enjoy separate from Krishna. So this conditioning is not only of this lifetime, but from time immemorial. And that's why controlling the mind or controlling the senses or controlling our desire, it becomes very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Yes? Now, the simple process here, Krishna, in most of the shlokas, what he is talking about, if you see the foundation, the foundational quality of a person who is fixed in transcendence, means his mind and senses are controlled. His intelligence is fixed in Krishna consciousness. So the major function is controlling the mind and senses, controlling our desire to enjoy separate from Krishna, and redirecting our desire to please Krishna. That is our natural state. Right? But controlling mind, because of this conditioning from time immemorial, it's very, very difficult. Even Arjuna rejected. Arjuna also rejected. He said, I cannot control this mind. I cannot control this mind. Even controlling the raising wind is easy than controlling the mind. And we are learning how to control the mind. We will see today how, if we are not controlling the mind or senses, how it can lead us to the degradation, to the hellish condition of life. So why, and this is very, very important subject matter. We are discussing it again and again, and throughout Bhagavad Gita you will see, this message is there, that a person who wants really to advance in Krishna consciousness, the first activity is to control mind and senses. We cannot lose our senses freely, or we cannot just let it go like anything. We could see the example last time, like a snake charmer. How a snake charmer controlling the snake? The snake is poisonous, venomous snake. We cannot lose it, or we cannot just freely let it go anywhere. So a snake charmer controlling the snake. Similarly, the senses are very, very powerful, very, very dangerous. Either it is mind or the senses, other senses, very, very powerful. And in verse number 60, what is mentioned here? Yatato hi api kaunteya purushasya vipasthita indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham mana. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Very important. Yes, this is the power of mind, power of senses. What to talk about those people who are not at all trying to control the senses? Yes, here it is a person, even of a man of discrimination. Man of discrimination means a person who is knowledgeable, one who is trying his best to control the mind and senses. Knowledgeable person means one who knows the difference between matter and spirit. Right? Knowledgeable person. One who knows about body and soul. Even such person, they are trying hard to control the mind and senses. But the senses are so strong, they forcibly carry away the mind. Forcibly carry away the mind. And so many examples we have discussed in our earlier sessions. That senses are so strong that there are many learned sages, philosophers and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated mind. Even Vishwamitra, a great sage and perfect yogi, was misled by Menka into sex enjoyment. Although the yogi was endeavoring for sense control with severe types of penances and yoga practice. And of course, there are so many similar instances in the history of the world. Yes? So here we are trying to understand that it is very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna conscious. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot seize such material engagements. So before this, in previous verse, Vishayabhini vartante viraharasya devina rasvajam rasopasya param drashtvani vartate, we could learn how to control mind and senses. What is the right process? What is the right process? How we can control? Do you remember? How? Engaging our mind and senses in Krishna. That is the only way to control the mind and senses. There is no other way. Doesn't matter how much mental concoction we are doing, how many different processes we are following. Example is given of Vishwamitra. We could discuss the example of Saubhuri Muni. These are the big personalities, mystic people, with mystic power. They tried their best to control mind and senses, but they could not. Just because of the flickering, because of the agitation of the mind, one flickering desire, sense, enjoyment, they were out of track. They lose their focus. So we can understand how powerful this is. So the only process, only way to control the mind and senses is engaging our mind and senses in Krishna's service. We see so much of temptation, so many temptations around the world, so many things which attracts our mind, our senses, and controlling those attractions or those kind of desires is not easy. If we try to control it forcefully, then we cannot do it. Even big yogis, big intelligent people, they fail. So what about us? And what about these people of Kali Yuga especially? Answer is yes. We are not in a very favorable situation where the atmosphere is totally different. Right? So many things, so many attractions, physical, material attraction. So it's very difficult to control. So,
not just attraction, I think the feeling of anger or sadness is equally, equally contributes. So sometimes, let's say your child is sick or whatever, so you do feel sad.
yes.
And I think Krishna consciousness would say that sadness and anger, they are also a part of it.
Yes. True. Here, when it is, yes, that's what. See,
Duality is duality.
when it comes to duality, it doesn't mean becoming hard-hearted. Devotion does not mean becoming hard-hearted. We have to understand. we have to do our responsibility with detachment. That is what we are learning from Bhagavad Gita, that we have to remain detached, and at the same time we have to do our duties. So duty with detachment. But this detachment is not abruptly giving up some responsibility or giving up some activity. Right? So this is called Yukta Vairagya. This is one technique how you can be happy in all situations. So this is called Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means at the same time you have to be detached also, but you have to utilize it. You have to do your duty also. That is what Krishna is teaching to Arjuna. He is not saying that Arjuna just no, don't do your duty, come back, don't do anything. He is not saying that. Because he is saying you have to fight, but how to fight, what should be your consciousness, that is more important. So of course, when we feel sad or whatever emotions are there, of course, those emotions, if it is becoming an hindrance or an obstacle in this journey of spiritual advancement, that emotion is bad. So we have to develop detachment from that kind of emotions. But emotions, integral part. We cannot give up this emotion. Thoughts, emotions or desires and emotions, these are integral part. We can never be away from desires, we can never be away from emotions. The only thing is we have to understand how to utilize these desires, or what kind of desire we need to have, and how to utilize these emotions. Right? We have to learn this art from Bhagavad Gita. So in next verses we will see that. So even the example is given of, so here the technique, first of all we have to learn this technique, how to control mind. How to control mind and senses. So one is forcefully controlling the mind. Forcefully, like these yogis. The yogis, what they do? They do severe austerities and penances, going to the jungle, away from the city life, standing on a single, maybe on leg, or and doing some austerity for years and years, controlling their mind and senses, not taking any food, not interacting with anybody. This is severe austerity. But in spite of doing such severe austerity for many years, and the people like Vishwamitra Muni, Saubhari Muni, and many incidents in history, they could not control their mind and senses. Right? So restraining is not the only solution. Only restraining, and Prabhupada has given a beautiful example. Why restraining is not good? Just like a diseased person, somebody is a sugar patient, and if you say no, you should not take sweet, okay, because of the doctor's instruction, the person will not take sweet. But the desire is still there. Desire is still there. So any moment that person can lose the control. Right? And it happens. This is a very practical example to understand. So only restraining our senses from sense object is not going to work, because at time when situation is there, when circumstances there, again we will come back to the same habit. You see, so many times even alcoholists, they promise, today is the last day. I will not take now onwards. I know this is bad. Even after knowing this, knowledge is there that this is smoking is bad, taking alcohol is bad, but still, this is called Phalgu Vairagya. Phalgu Vairagya means false detachment. Smashan Vairagya, false detachment. When we go to Smashan Ghat, cremation ground, and that day we realize, oh, this is the reality of life. No, all these is Maya, attachment. And the moment we come out from that place, again we see some enjoyment in life, and we forget about it. False detachment. Right? So this is not going to work. We need to develop, and that's what Vishaya Abhinivartante means. We need to develop higher taste. Higher taste. Then only the lower taste will go away. The desires we have right now, that is material desire, material consciousness. So we have to understand the difference between these two also. what kind of desire is going to help us? We have desire for material sense enjoyment, and another desire is desire for Krishna's service, loving devotional service. So this material desire will lead us to degradation of the soul, degradation of the consciousness. But spiritual desire will help us to elevate our consciousness, raise our consciousness, develop love for Krishna, and that will be blissful, right? So before coming to this point, controlling, I was just talking to Shita Mata, she gave very nice points. So first point is, only restraining the senses is not going to work. Forcefully we cannot control our mind and our senses. So first is, but still, it doesn't mean that the restraining or controlling is not going, it is useless. It's not. Initial stages, like Prabhupada said, neophyte, when we are new, some kind of restraining, restriction is required. Some kind of restriction is required. We have to do it forcefully. Initially, at neophyte state, we have to do it forcefully. And then, gradually, the second step what we have to take, then we have to engage our senses in positivity. Engaging our mind and senses in Krishna consciousness. So these two, detachment and attachment together. Detachment from something, from material desire, and attachment in Krishna consciousness. This is going to help. Only one way is not going to help. So control, and second point is, what is that? Concentration. Triple C. It's a beautiful formula, huh? Triple C. Control is restrictions, do's and don'ts. Our scriptures, it talks about do's and don'ts. Do and this is what supposed to be done, and this is what one should not do. So do's and don'ts means restriction. We have to follow those instructions. So this is what restriction, controlling mind and senses. And second is concentration, keeping our focus on Krishna. That is the purpose of life, human form of life. Re-establishing our lost relationship with Krishna, re-invoking our love for Krishna. So just we have to focus on this, concentrate our mind, and Krishna is teaching the same thing. Mat para. So this is Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita mat para vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajya pratishtita. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me. So this is the formula to control mind and senses. How can we control? First, yes, we have to restrain our senses from negativity. At the same time, we have to engage it in positivity. Only restraining is not going to help. It will bounce back. So mind and senses, detach it from sense enjoyment, and that sense enjoyment, attach it to the enjoyment or to give pleasure to Krishna. Getting this point? Anybody would like to explain what exactly I am saying? Are you clear with this concept? We have to detach ourselves from sense enjoyment. And to attach our desire, like right now we have desire to enjoy our senses, to satisfy ourselves, this body, not true self. We are trying, everybody in this material world, somehow or other, what they are trying exactly. They want to try they want to satisfy their mind, their senses. Is it clear? Whatever you are doing, right? Earning money or different level of desires are there, no? Physical level of desires, mental level of desires, intellectual level of desires. So we are all trying to fulfill our desires. Name, fame, money, position. This is what? Desire. somehow or other we want to satisfy. Right? Is it clear? So this is enjoying mentality. This is what, it's not bad. Let me come to this point again. Bad means what is good, bad, we have to understand. Enjoying mentality is very natural. Without enjoyment, we cannot live. We cannot, that is our natural propensity. Like Krishna is blissful, and we are part and parcel of Krishna, so we also have that blissful nature. We also have that enjoying mentality. The only thing is we are trying to enjoy, but in a wrong way. In a wrong way. That is what we have to understand. Right? So our enjoyment is with Krishna. The real enjoyment is with Krishna. Without Krishna, the enjoyment, that is not true enjoyment, and that leads to suffering. This concept must be very, very clear. If we are trying to enjoy separate from Krishna, that is called material enjoyment, and that material enjoyment leads to suffering, leads to degradation of the soul. We will discuss a beautiful story. I have already told you that story, but we will understand in next 2 shlokas how material enjoyment is degrading us, leading us to the hellish condition of life. We will understand. But here the first point is material attachment. We have to give up that, and we have to develop attachment to Krishna. This is the process to control the mind and senses. We cannot remain idle. Right? We cannot remain idle. We will do something or other. We cannot be desireless. But the real desirelessness means redirecting our desire to Krishna. And that will, and that's why Krishna is saying Mat Para. Now he is, even first time, as of now, Krishna was simply talking about, yes, be careful. Krishna talking, he never spoke about himself. Now his first time in this Bhagavad Gita, he is saying where to focus your mind and senses, where to engage your mind and senses. He is saying fixes his consciousness upon me. So first time Krishna is saying, where do you fix your mind and senses? Upon me. Upon me. Because Krishna is Supreme Personality of God. He is cause of all causes. He is source of everything. And we are part and parcel of Krishna. And if we are connected with Krishna, if we are Krishna conscious means if we dovetail our desire with the desire of Krishna, that is our natural state, and in that natural state we will always be blissful, happy. This is what Krishna consciousness is. We don't have to do anything extra, anything. Whatever we are doing, we have to simply dovetail our activities, dovetail our desire with the desire of Krishna. Right? Whenever we talk about some spirituality, most of the time people have misconception that they will have to give up everything. You don't have to give up. Give up means, of course, bad habits, bad consciousness, which is away from Krishna. We have to give up those things. And even the process Krishna is giving, do not think about giving up. The process, because by our own effort only, by our own endeavor only, we cannot give up these bad consciousness. So the process Krishna is giving, better instead of thinking of negativity, try to engage yourself in positivity. Instead of giving up material consciousness, develop Krishna consciousness. Develop Krishna consciousness. Right? So there are new devotees also. So what is Krishna consciousness? How can we engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness? Whatever activity we are doing, simply we have to dovetail it. We have to devote it, dedicate it to Krishna. There's nothing any special, extraneous, or any special other activities you have to do for it. You are eating, you are eating, sleeping, or cleaning the house, whatever job you're doing, just dedicate it to Krishna. for the pleasure of Krishna. That will help us to purify our consciousness. Yes. Otherwise, this big example, we could discuss the example of Durvasa Muni also. Such a mystic yogi. And he could not control his mind and senses. He was so much angry on Amrish Maharaj. And Amrish Maharaj, this is the best example to understand. Amrish Maharaj, he was a simple devotee of Krishna. And because of this one quality, because he was dedicated and devoted to Krishna, he was very much cool, calm, composed, not at all disturbed. And Durvasa Muni, such a mystic yogi, just because of one small issue, that Amrish Maharaj, before honoring Durvasa Muni, he took a drop of water just to observe his Ekadashi fasting. And just because of this small incident, Durvasa Muni, he could not control his anger. He became so much angry on Amrish Maharaj that he tried to kill him. Even in this situation, Amrish Maharaj, so much calm, composed, he was so much dependent on Krishna, he never reacted. He never retaliated on that situation. He was totally dependent on Krishna. And we see, who was the victorious? Amrish Maharaj, he was victorious. This is the power of devotion. This is the power of devotion to control the mind and senses. The moment we take shelter of Krishna, we can very easily control our mind and senses. So restriction, we were talking about, first point is restriction. Of course, we have to restrict. At the same time, we have to engage in Krishna consciousness. Only restriction is not going to help. When we engage our mind and senses in Krishna's service, then we will conquer mind and senses. We can conquer mind and senses. Triple C. Control, concentrate in Krishna's service, and then conquer mind and senses. Very easy. The process becomes very easy. Right? Now we will see, if we do not control mind and senses, what will happen? These two verses, very famous verses in Bhagavad Gita, verse number 62 and 63, this is progression of degradation. What are the different steps which leads to the degradation or leads to the hellish condition of life? Be very careful, we will understand it. You will understand how different negative emotions controlling us and what is the source behind that, how it starts. You will learn anger management, right? Where from anger, we all suffer from this kind of emotions, negative emotions, right? And let's hear now this, what Krishna is saying. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sanga samjayate kama kama krodh avijayate. See the sequence. What happens? While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Anger arises. Where from anger is coming? What is the beginning? What is the beginning? First, the first is contemplation. The first activity, what is that? The beginning is contemplation. Contemplation on what? Objects of the senses. Contemplation. Imagination. Contemplation. Right? Very, sometimes we do not think about it. So whatever thought process is going within, we never bother about it. But see, that is the beginning. And that's why it is very important what we think, what we speak. Thinking or any kind of whatever we are seeing, that is very good. Dhyayato. Dhyayato means contemplation. See, there are so many, as I said, there are so many things. We cannot stop our eyes to see them. We cannot stop our ears to hear them. The senses are there. So definitely we will see. We will hear whatever is happening in our surroundings. But the most important, it's not that what we see, but what we contemplate, that is more important. What we contemplate, what we think, that is more important. So, dhyayato vishayan pumsa, when somebody starts contemplating on the sense objects. Sense objects. Senses we know, and objects we know. Eyes, they want to see some beauty. Ears, they want to hear something, some beautiful music, right? And tongue wants to enjoy some taste. Senses, sense of touch. These are the senses and sense objects. So, when we start contemplating on the sense object, what happens next? A person develops attachment for them. Attachment for them. So when you think of something, keep on thinking, imagining, then you develop attachment. What is attachment? You develop a strong desire to get that thing or person. Understand? I'll give you one small story to understand it. We heard the story of Ajamila. Ajamila, a young Brahmana boy, very much loyal to his family, his father, knowing he was the knower of the Vedas, all knowledge, he was knowledgeable person, and he was engaged in spiritual practices also. And one day, just by the order of his father, when he was in jungle, a forest, to collect some paraphernalia, some wood, some grass for yajna. While returning from jungle, he could see a prostitute embracing a person, like a Shudra man. So male and female embracing each other. They were fully intoxicated and embracing each other. And this Ajamila, he could see that scene. And simply by seeing that prostitute, he started. First of all, he was trying to restrain. He knows, he knew that it is not good, it is bad. But still, he started contemplating on that scene again and again. He came back to his home, but still, the thought was still there. He was contemplating, he was imagining, he was thinking about that scene, that prostitute, how she was doing, how she was behaving, fully intoxicated, embracing the person. And because of that contemplation, what happens? He developed attachment. He developed an attachment to get that prostitute. He started now thinking, planning, how should I get that prostitute in my home? And he hired her as a maid servant just to get that prostitute in his house. And eventually, because that attachment was so much, what happens because of that? From such attachment, lust develops. If we are attached to something, then we develop lust. Lust is another form of attachment only. Unwanted desire, something which is not good, but is still. Lust means that is a stage when we are ready to do anything to get that thing. Yeah? So I'm just giving this one example, but anything you can imagine. Anything, if you develop lust for that, it means you are ready to do anything. Sometimes paramour. Sometimes if the wife is, let's not get into this, but this is another example that let me not go into that. This one example is sufficient. The point is, the person, Ajamila, he was already having a beautiful, chaste wife. Right? And now he forgot about it. Now he just left his beautiful, chaste wife, and just to satisfy his senses, not to satisfy the senses of the prostitute, but his senses. Now we can understand how powerful senses are. If the senses are attached to the sense objects, even a person who is intelligent will be degraded. So this is one example. And now he married that prostitute, left his beautiful chaste wife. He spent all money from his father just to satisfy the prostitute. And because when there was no money, because in this course so many children were there, and he was not having money to maintain his family, and now he started plundering, he started cheating people, plundering people, looting, everything, all bad activities he started. See, where from it is starting? Just because of Ayato. He started contemplating one sense object, and he is now a person who was intelligent enough. Now he is getting degraded to such a pity condition, such a situation. He left everything. And what happens? Lust is there, unwanted desires are there. If it is fulfilled, if your desire is fulfilled, what happens? Next, more. We want more. Sometimes people have a misconception that even many institutions, they teach about why to control mind, why to control your senses. Just do whatever is coming in your mind, just do it. A time will come when there will be no desire. Do you think it will happen? I give you an example. Don't think like even a king. He was just talking to his minister. He said that why to control mind and senses right now? I am young enough. Let me enjoy. Once I grow old, then I will lose my taste of enjoyment. By default, it never happens like this. If you just put fuel in the fire, what do you think? It will become more. It will raise. So similarly, if we try to just give up whatever our mind and senses demanding, don't think. It's never going to happen. It will raise our desires. So that is what the nature of this material enjoyment. As much we try to fulfill our material desires, that much we develop desire to achieve, to get more and more. We never feel satisfied. So lust and greed, it never satisfies. Now, if we do not get our desires fulfilled, then what happens? Anger. Because of lust, because of unwanted the desires we have, if it is not fulfilled, then we develop anger. We want our near and dear ones to do the way we want. If they do not do, then what? We become angry. So where from this anger is coming? Because of this lust, because of desire, because of expectation. We have this expectation, and that's why we become angry. And now here, what happens when we become angry? Krodha bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhrama, smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. Now let's move next. What happens? From anger, complete delusion arises. Delusion. Delusion is a situation when we are not able to decide what is good and what is bad. We all have experience, right? When we become angry, we don't know what is right and what is wrong. And that's why it is suggested, when you are angry, don't speak. Do not speak. Because whatever you are going to speak, that is going to destroy everything. That is going to damage. Right? So, delusion. What is right, what is wrong. Our discrimination power is gone. We forget about it. What happens next? From delusion, bewilderment of memory. Memory is lost. Memory means, what is the use of memory? Our experiences. Where is our experience? Memory is our database, storehouse of our experiences. Last time I did this, and because of this, I suffered so much. But when we are angry enough, memory is lost. If you understand, if you know computer technology, where from this CPU? CPU is brain, right? CPU is brain and hard disk is memory power. So where from CPU is taking data? From memory, right? We have two kinds of memory. Let me, you all know about computer, RAM and ROM, huh? So these are ultimately, this is memory. Memory means storehouse. And the CPU is the brain. If there is nothing in memory, where from CPU will take, or the brain will take data? No, if no data is there is no use of that brain. Do you understand it? Right? Hope I am able to make you understand. If there is nothing in memory, then CPU will not work. Based on the data in memory, hard disk, CPU is functioning. Similarly, if we forget about our experiences, previous experiences, whatever is there in memory, then brain will not work. That is what Krishna is saying. Intelligence is lost when there is nothing in memory. We are not able to recall what happened last time by doing this activity. Then we will again commit the same activity. We will do the same thing again. Getting this point? Last time I suffered with one activity, and after some time we forget. We do the same again. And then we repent. Hankering, lamentation. Hankering, lamentation. Going on. This is the job of mind. Right? So what Krishna is saying, when memory is bewildered, when memory is lost, intelligence is lost. Intelligence, the work of intelligence is to discriminate what is good and what is bad. We lose this power. And what happens? When intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Again into the material pool. Sufferings. So these two shlokas Krishna is giving. This is the progression of degradation to the hellish condition of life. You will learn so many techniques outside. They will teach you how to control anger or how to control any kind of negative emotion. So they will give you some technique. Okay, when you are angry, take some glass of water, count some number, walk, just do a walk, or just get away from the person. Okay, all these are small techniques, but this is not the real solution. This is temporary patchwork. When you are in situation, when you are trapped in situation, then of course these techniques may help you just to get reduced or to forget. But what Krishna is teaching us, that we have to control our emotions, our thought at the very beginning. At the very beginning, before coming to this stage, dhyayato, that is the stage we have to control our mind, our thoughts, our temptations. We have to check it, what we are thinking, what we are doing, what we are speaking. Is it really helping me to advance in Krishna consciousness? Is it really for the pleasure of Krishna? Is it really going to please Krishna? That is the parameter to decide what to do, what to think. Otherwise, once we are trapped, like we see the Ajamila, he got trapped. He got trapped. And beautiful, even this example, we can see the story of Ravana also. The same thing, dhyayato vishayan pumsa. He started contemplating on the beauty of Sita and developed lust. And because of that lusty desire, he became a thief. Such a powerful personality, Ravana. And he became a thief. He stole Sita. And just to fulfill his desire so much, he was just pleading. Such a big personality, even the big demigods, they were fearful simply by the eyebrows of Ravana. And he was pleading in front of Sita. And so many people tried to make him understand. So many people. Mandodari, Hanumanji, Vibhishan, Kumbhkarna, Meghdut,
everyone tried to make him understand that no, just give up this lusty desire, marriage, all these, they were tried. But once we are trapped in this lusty desire, it's very difficult to overcome. Once Arjuna asked Krishna, why somebody is engaged in sinful activity in spite of knowing? And Krishna is saying, Kamesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudra. This is because of lusty desires, which arises because of mode of passion, ignorance. So we have to check our desire. We have to engage our desire in service of Krishna. Then by default, very easily, our mind and senses will be engaged in Krishna's service, will be controlled. Because engaging in Krishna's service means higher taste. Higher taste. Seeing the beauty of Krishna, glorifying Krishna, dancing with Krishna, chanting for Krishna, hearing the message of Krishna, playing with Krishna. Any desire we have, everything can be fulfilled with Krishna. In association of devotees, singing, dancing, feasting, so many delicious prasadam. Is it a very tough process? And easily, devotees they can very easily control mind and senses. Once you are absorbed in Krishna consciousness, your mind will not disturb. You will be happy in all situations. We are working for Krishna, okay? By the mercy of Krishna, if Krishna desires, if we achieve, if we are succeeded in our achievement, in our effort, in our activity, thank you so much, Krishna. By your mercy, I was able to do it. Because I am an instrument in your hands, and because of your desire, because of your mercy, I could do it. I will not be attached. I will not try to become a doer. And if I could not achieve success, then see Krishna's plan in that. Krishna has something better for me. So we will not be obsessed with our desires, material desires. Right? So material desire and spiritual desire means desire for Krishna is spiritual and desire for the self is material. And when we are having this material desire, then frustration will always be there because our desire is not going to be fulfilled in this material world, in this material consciousness. Either too much or too little, we will become miserable. We will become miserable. Right? It will never happen that whatever we are desiring, everything will be perfect. Sometimes too much, maybe sometimes more, sometimes less, and we will keep on lamenting for it. Right? So the best way is to engage ourselves in Krishna's service, loving devotional service, and very easy. Be happy always. Chant, dance, sing, feast. Thank you so much. So any question we can take now? Anything?
63 shloka verse में impersonalist के बारे में Prabhupada is mentioning, right?
Yes, I think we should read purport also. That is very, very important. No, impersonalist, where is this?
63 shloka, we're going to Falgu.
Falgu, yes. What Prabhupada is saying, let me quickly, just 2 minutes. By developing Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Right? Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. So the one point is here, when we say detachment, we don't have to reject anything. Objects. We don't have to reject objects, because Prabhupada is saying everything has its utility in Krishna consciousness. Whatever we have, we can simply engage in service of Krishna. If we are very much knowledgeable, we can utilize our knowledge in service of Krishna. If we are a poet, we can write some beautiful song for the pleasure of Krishna. Right? If we are good cook, we can cook for Krishna. If we are a good singer, we can sing for Krishna. So everything can be utilized in service of Krishna. So if we try to reject, that rejection is not going to work. Detachment, that detachment is not going to work. Their so-called renunciation is called Falgu or less important. I told you, Falgu Vairagya. Falgu means Falgu is like a temporary detachment for the time being. For the time being. Because I don't like it, and that's why I detach. You see, in this material world, people, their detachment is like this one. Falgu is false. They will show detachment because of their personal desires. Personal desires. So let me see, Prabhupada is giving further explanation. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become victim of material consciousness. Yes? Because Falgu Vairagya means any time, any moment, it will come back again. That desire will again come. Right? For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the absolute being impersonal cannot eat. So this example, impersonalist means someone who does not believe in the form of Krishna. Someone who does not believe that Krishna is a person. Right? And what they say that impersonalists, because they are frustrated in this material world, so their approach or what they think that detachment from the objects of this material world is freedom or is liberation. Liberation means detachment. Just forget about all these material things. Detachment from the sense of the objects. And what say even food? Food is what? Maya. So they give up food. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. But Krishna's devotee, what they do? They know that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Everything must be offered to Krishna. So they cook variety of food and they offer it to Krishna and they enjoy the food. Right? So that is one point. Our detachment that is called true detachment. So after enjoy and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. So we take prasadam. Right? Thus everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of a downfall. So there is no downfall. So if we take food offered to Krishna, that will raise our consciousness, purify our consciousness. So anything and everything, anything is whatever Krishna wants from us, if we simply engage that in Krishna's service, if we make our activity, our thought process, if we spiritualize it, then that will help us to raise our consciousness. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. So one who is not devoted to Krishna, they think, okay, no, this is Maya, and just give up. So they cannot vanish, they cannot enjoy. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation. And this kind of renunciation is artificial renunciation. We could discuss so many examples, right? This is Falgu Vairagya, artificial renunciation, because externally they make a show of detachment, but internally the desire to enjoy that is still there. This is called Falgu detachment or false detachment. And in chapter 3 we will learn that this kind of detachment is not recommended by Krishna. This is not recommended. Better developing this kind of detachment, better engage your senses in service of Krishna. That is much better. And for this reason, a slight agitation of mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. Prabhupada is very clearly said. Somebody restraining senses, but within mind the sense, the desire for the sense object is there, that kind of detachment will lead to degradation any moment. Any moment the person will fall down, and we see in this modern society also many big, you talk about spiritualists or the big what do you call, no, even sadhus or leaders, they are trying their best, whatever they are doing, but because of this false detachment, any moment they lose control and they fell down. Are you getting this point? Big sadhus even, they lose the control because they were trying force, they were trying to control without devotion. So that kind of devotion is risky.
But that's how everything starts, right? So you should not really feel that, a lot of times you will not really feel that you're doing it because you want to achieve that. And then I think slowly it comes that, from false detachment, you actually start feeling it from inside also. So that intermediate period is, I think, is what you're talking about. But I think it all starts from
control, it starts from
restriction. We should start with restrictions only.
We have to start.
Gradually.
Yeah, this is what the 3 steps we discussed about. 2 steps basically. Detachment at initial stage, restraining the senses, that is what we have to do. Following rules and regulations, do's and don'ts. We have to do it. But independently, only do's and don'ts, it will be not long lasting. Because any moment, because of the circumstances and situations, we will fall down again. This is what, it's a good learning, bad habits or the change of habits. This is a good topic, anger management, habits. You can learn from this, Bhagavad Gita, how to change the habits. And we know habits sometimes it is so deep rooted, it is very difficult to change. Why? We try our best, but we are not able to do that. So this is the process Krishna is teaching, how to change habits, develop higher taste, develop new positive habits. Instead of focusing on negativity, develop new habits, right? Positive habits.
I was saying that, what are you saying? I want to add to that. That while one is controlling one's senses, one also has to keep, remembering Krishna and being Krishna consciousness, so that the disha is there. And I also think that while we are sitting or not doing anything, would you advise that one should chant name whenever one is free?
That is what. Being absorbed in Krishna consciousness means acting for Krishna, thinking of Krishna, chanting the holy name of Krishna. This is what engagement. Even, this is a very important point. When we say chanting, reading, hearing, a question may come. Okay, it means we have to give up our job, our business, our household activities. No, this is not the change of activity. This is change of consciousness. Whatever we are doing, our worldly affairs we have, different responsibilities we have to just change the consciousness. We have to do it for the pleasure of Krishna. Keeping Krishna in mind, we have to do our responsibilities, our duties. So this way we will always remember Krishna. And this is what the purpose, right? This will help us to control our mind and senses, please.
60 shloka में Lord Shiva का example दिया है. Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava.
These 2 paragraphs, we should read that. Anyway, somehow I just went into discussion. Yes, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Example, if you read that purport, this is showing the power of senses. Even Lord Shiva got agitated, such a personality. But don't take it in a negative way. It doesn't mean that Lord Shiva. Even in many other places, references are such a Lord Shiva is having very much control on his mind and senses. But this incident is just to show that even personality like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, in the scriptures we see Lord Shiva got agitated by Parvati. And even Lord Brahma just got agitated by his own daughter. He was running after his own daughter. And that's why our scriptures recommend that. We have to understand the power of senses.
Lord Shiva is a yogi by nature.
Huh?
Lord Shiva is a yogi by nature.
No, this example, this context is just to understand this one part. Lord Shiva is Vaishnava Nam Yatha Shambhu. He is the topmost devotee of Krishna, Vishnu, Lord Rama. He is a very powerful personality, right? Why we are taking this example? Why this example is to understand that big demigods having so much power, but without taking shelter of Krishna, without devotion, even they fell down. They were agitated. They lose their control. So that is what the teaching here. So we have to take shelter of Krishna, and taking shelter of Krishna is taking shelter of his name, because Krishna is not different than his name. Right? As Krishna is transcendental, Krishna Prashadam is transcendental, Krishna's name is transcendental. Everything in relation to Krishna becomes transcendental. And if we come in contact with Krishna, we also become transcendental. Transcendental means one whose mind and senses are controlled, not always fixed in samadhi, always remembering Krishna, never forgetting Krishna. So this is what the purpose of life. So let's say we, our body, mind, desires, everything in service of Krishna, and spiritualize it and become transcendental to the sufferings of this material world. Being in this material world just like a lotus flower, untouched with mud, untouched with water. So chanting the holy name will raise our consciousness and lift us at transcendental platform. So let's all chant together. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivaswati Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna,
So mind will disturb you. Mind will speak. Why so much? Why you are chanting the holy name? So don't listen, mind. Because this is the job of mind. Just use your intelligence and keep on chanting, and gradually by chanting we will develop love for Krishna. And every morning 6:15, sharp 6:15, we meet together online and we learn chanting. We do chanting, 1 round of chanting together, and at the same time we learn also so many techniques, and so that it will help us to improve our chanting quality. So all of you are in group, you can join 6:15. So we can practice together and advance in Krishna consciousness. Namaste, Namaste, Thank you so much for joining. So, the simple process we have to accept, engage in service of Krishna. So like we do Aarti or chanting the holy name of the Lord, this is what the transcendental austerity we have to do. Whether we like it, we do not like it, just start. This is what we have to engage our mind and senses. Time to time you can visit temple, have darshan, participate in kirtan, dancing, chanting, feasting, and even at home, just have a picture or deity of Krishna every morning. Our schedule should be in such a way so that Every morning we can bow down in front of Krishna, we can do some chanting, we can read about Krishna. So the whole day we have to engage ourselves in such a way so that we can remain Krishna conscious every moment. That is perfection of life. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.